Alright, how's it going, guys? We're back here for Season 7 of the IPA, International Pokemon Association, and I've got actually a really cool looking draft. I really like the looks of it. It's kind of, I guess you'd kind of say, it's kind of a cross between unconventional and standard, and it's kind of a cross from unconventional from what I normally draft, and standard from what I normally draft, which is, I mean, two things that are very opposite, I suppose, because what I draft as standard, and I guess what just standard is as standard as, that's not really the same, I guess. But anyways, I have a really fun team, and I actually didn't get sniped once, which is crazy because I have some really cool looking stuff. I've got Tapu Koko, I've got Charizard. Those are the main things, I guess. Everything other than that isn't really something that was like too high of a risk of being sniped, like Gliscor, Keldeo maybe, Rotom not really, because like every other Rotom form was still around, but I really wanted Mo. I didn't want any other Rotom form, so I'm very happy with that. Maybe Kofag, because I got it super late, but not really. Metagross, I guess, got like nothing I got. I was really, after Charizard Koko, I didn't really think I was gonna get sniped. But those are the two main things. Like the fact that I didn't get sniped from either of these when I was 9th in the draft order is pretty crazy. I'm really happy about that. Like that's not even, yeah, that's really cool. I'm really happy about it because I wanted to draft Koko, specifically Koko, for a long time. So I finally got Koko. I didn't think I'd get Koko Zard, which is like my favorite core at the moment. Like if you see me in OU, odds are I'm gonna be running the Koko Zard because I can't get enough of that shit right now. That's like honestly hands down my favorite thing to do right now. And I really like these mons for a lot of reasons. Koko, first of all, I love the typing. I love the design. I love terrains. I love everything about Koko. I love this Pokemon. But it actually does something that I pretty much never usually do in my standard drafts, and that is it's got good speed control, which is something, like I said, you don't see on like any of my other drafts. So I'm really happy that this draft I actually have good speed. I've got Koko, I've got Dragon Dance, I've got Keldeo, I've got Rotom, which can be Scarfed, I've got Priority and Bullet Punch, so I've got a lot of, I was gonna say Trickery, but that's like, what the hell am I saying? What's wrong with me? But anyway, so I really like the speed tiers on the team, and this is probably the first team I've ever drafted that has actually good speed tiers. Like I said, like Koko, Dragon Dance, Keldeo, even got Gliscor is pretty speedy, Taunter, so I really like the speed tiers on this team. Koko, it's got a lot of really cool stuff. I love the mixed stats, the mixed offenses. Give me a sec. No, it's good. But yeah, I really like everything that you can do with Koko. You can run physical, you can run special. It gets initiative with U-turn and Volt Switch, which is pretty cool. You can kind of tailor pick which one you want to bring, which is nice. And like a lot of times, like if you have an electric that learns U-turn and you put U-turn or like Baton Pass, like if you run Jolteon with like Baton Pass, obviously, but it's just there for the momentum. But U-turn off of base 115 is actually pretty good. Like you deal a solid chunk to stuff like Tangrowth, the Lotties as well. So you do deal a pretty good chunk of damage off that attack style, which is what I really like. I don't know why it's does that as like the automatic. I just clicked Koko and it gave me that automatically. But yeah, I really like this Pokemon. Charizard is probably, I don't know, I have very mixed feelings towards Charizard, right? If you asked me what I thought about Charizard, I'd probably at first tell you I fucking hate the Pokemon. But after that, I'd probably tell you I also love the Pokemon. So it's very mixed feelings. I hate going against Charizard. It's such a bitch to have to prep for. In my opinion, Charizard is one of those Pokemon that you can. I look at Charizard the same way that I looked at Gengar. Gengar's a bit different because you have a bit more speed, but Charizard has a little bit more bulk and a better, I guess, defensive typing. Gengar's got a lot of cover. The point is, I look at Gengar and Charizard as Pokemon that kind of you can tailor build to like beat like any Pokemon pretty much in the game. Like there's a lot of things that you can get to just beat anything. Like things like Quagsire is not a counter in League because you get stuff like HP Grass, which is pretty cool for like Dragon Dance and stuff. Stuff like Landorus isn't a counter in League because you got stuff like HP Ice, which is really cool. You've got stuff like Thunder Punch, Earthquake, which is very cool. You have the option of running Fire Punch, obviously, or Flare Blitz. Flare Blitz being better like 90% of the time, but if you're running a Dragon Dance set or even a Swords Dance set against a bulkier team, You can kind of judge your damage calcs based off of that. Obviously, I'm a man of power, so I always go for that flare blitz. But on that note, you get belly drum, which is pretty tech. I gotta say, if you're playing against some dank stall in the draft format, Swords Dance is super good. Dragon Dance is super good. It gets a lot of really cool stuff. Outrage is another thing. Outrage actually beats a lot of things that would be considered a guaranteed counter otherwise. Like stuff like Outrage can like 2-kill like Quagsire, stuff like that, which is really crazy, which is when you think of it. Clefable, think of all the unaware mons and all of them get wrecked by Charizard anyway. Clefable, so it gets a lot of like coverage that you wouldn't necessarily think. Like you said, like stuff like Thunder Punch is super cool. You can tech stuff like Gyarados, which people, I don't know, like I've seen League people try to bring like Fizz Def, Intimidate Gyarados for Charizard, and then they just get blown away with a Thunder Punch. So that of course is a very cool thing. Will-O-Wisp is another thing. Like bulky defensive Charizard is a set that I'm a pretty big fan of. It's kind of like a poor man's Altaria, but not really, I guess. Like not really at all. But like you get the fire resist, which is really pretty cool. You get a lot of really cool stuff. Like the resistances you get from this defensive typing is super good, and Roost and Will-O-Wisp is just like more than enough that you need for a lot of stuff. Stuff like Scizor, you can just beat indefinitely. Although you can be offensive and easily beat Scizor anyway. But it's a super cool mod. It's got a lot of tech that people don't really realize, which is really nice. I'm a huge fan of it. Offensively, defensively, it's a great Pokemon. Gliscor, I'm not the hugest fan of ground flying types in League. I don't like Landorus. I don't think I would ever draft Landorus. I know it's a good one, but honestly, I don't think I would ever draft Landorus. I hate that liability of the ice weakness. I hate that liability. Gliscor is kind of mitigating that ice weakness when you have stuff like Poison Heal, have stuff like Roost, because obviously, like, if you want to beat like really bulky ground types, really bulky rock types, you are going to be able to outspeed them in Roost. And if they have something like HP Ice or Ice Fang, something like Rhyperior, although Rhyperior could have Aqua Tail, but like if you're facing against something like a Rhyperior with an Ice Fang or something along Ice Punch, I think it is actually, excuse me. But if you're facing something like that, then you can come in and you can take the first hit because you're a Gliscor, and you can Roost the second time, and then after you Roost, the Ice move is going to do very little, and then the fact that Poison Heal is basically going to be mitigating the majority of that anyways. You can Roost, get up to almost full, take the Ice Punch, which is only going to be one-time super effect, maybe take 30-40%, heal, well, actually, that's probably still going to be a lot. You're probably not going to be able to beat them very well, but like take a decent amount of damage, heal off half of it with Poison Heal, go for the Toxic next turn, and then you just spam Roost and beat it 1v1. So I like Gliscor. I like the Mon as a Mon. I like it, just everything about it. It's a very fun Mon. I like its design. It's pretty cool. I also think it's kind of I think its other sets are kind of underutilized in League, in my opinion. It gets a lot of really cool stuff. It gets Swords Dance, gets Rock Polish. It gets what am I trying to say? I mean, it's a Rocker, which is pretty cool, which I kind of needed. It's a Defogger, which I needed as well. My Defog is a little bit lacking, but between Gliscor and Rotom, hopefully we'll have that down on lock. Tapu Koko can also kind of defog, which is kind of cool, but I want to try to bring more offensive Gliscor sets as much as I can, because I really feel like in League, the alternative sets are underutilized. And when I say alternative sets, what I'm kind of leaning towards is Z-moves. And I know that sounds crazy because of Poison Heal, obviously, but I feel like Z-moves are really underutilized on Gliscor, and specifically like the Flying Stab. Like, it's very much like Landorus, kind of, with really good stabs, but one of them you can't really use. So I really like the idea of Z-move Gliscor. I think it's really fun. I really want to try Fighting Z Gliscor. I really want to try just Z-moves, period. Because like I said, like you have stuff like Swords Dance, you have stuff like Rock Polish. It's got a lot of really interesting things. The attack stat is it gives a lot to be desired, I guess you could say. What the fuck is this? What is this like the Showdown standard? You type in a Pokemon and it gives you no attack EVs? I don't know. But anyways, I have no idea. I really like that set. I think it's kind of underutilized. I feel like it's kind of going to be shoehorned as the Defogger most games, which I say shoehorned, that's like probably the best set, because it can be a lot of Stealth Rockers 1v1. It can't be kind of poisoned and outstalled, which kind of a lot of other defoggers have the potential to do. So that's kind of cool. Both my defoggers are weak. Both my main defoggers are weak to ice, which is a little bit unfortunate, but we'll have to play around that. Not a lot of like ice types other than like Mammoth Swine get Stealth Rocks, so I don't know. Well, and Pillow Swine obviously, but yeah, we'll have to play around with that. We'll see what we can do. Moving on from there, Keldeo. Keldeo is one of my OG picks. Back when I first started League for the very first time, the two Pokemon I got was Gengar, Keldeo, and I really liked those as a core. Keldeo, it's kind of lost its luster a little bit to me. Gengar, never. Gengar is always going to be the greatest Pokemon of all time. It's always going to be the fucking GOAT. Gengar is amazing. I love that Pokemon. Keldeo's lost its luster a little bit to me, especially with the burn nerf, but I mean, it's a solid Mon. It's a water type. I wish I had a kind of bulkier water type, but I don't, but that's okay. It's a water type. It is, it's pretty fast. It's not above 110, but we do have the Tapu Koko in the back. We do have Dragon Dance, as I mentioned. We do have Bullet Punch. We've got a lot of decent stuff, and we've got a lot of kind of bulk backbone I would expect, so it's pretty cool. It's got setup sets, it's got Calm Mind, so it's not entirely just a kind of passive thing that you can come into a Scarf set, take nothing, come into a Spec set even, and shrug the damage off. It gets hits on both sides, physical special, which is pretty nice. And what else was I trying to say? I mean, it gets basically what I was just trying to say before. It gets setup, it gets speed, it's a water type, it's a pretty solid Mon. Rotom, moving on from there, Rotom's a solid Mon. It's a ground immunity without a quad weakness, so I'm happy about that for sure. Because Gliscor is going to be fairly easy to take advantage of, I would assume. So Rotom's a solid Mon. It gives me a good electric type. Semi-fast Electra. I mean, obviously we have Tapu Koko, but I mean, I feel like Rotom plus Koko kind of, they have the potential of doing stuff together, which I kind of think is cool. I kind of think that's cool. Rotom can beat ground types that Tapu Koko can't, so I feel like they kind of work together pretty well. Oh, and obviously it gets the Electric Chain boost, which I like. It's a pretty cool Mon. It's a defogger, like you mentioned, that is a little bit less easy to take advantage of, I would say. It's a pretty solid Z-move user, I would say. I think a lot of people kind of overlook Rotom as a Z-move user. I think it's a solid Z-move user. I've used it in RU. I think it's solid. Bloom Doom, I think it's a solid option. So plus the fact that like having Bloom Doom plus Electric Terrain boost, it makes it a little bit awkward to have to deal with as a Pokemon. So I'm pretty happy with it. Like even something like Marowak is gonna take a lot from Bloom Doom. So it's a obviously a low in Marowak. So yeah, it's a solid Pokemon. It gets Pain Splits, so semi-reliable recovery. Double status, triple status rather, which is pretty cool. Wisp, Toxic, Thunder Wave if you need it. It's a cool Mon. I definitely like it a lot. I like its typing a lot. Back in the day, I used to run some tech like lantern sets that was like not really tech. It was just like a bitch lantern set. It was like Rest Talk, Scald, Volt Switch. I was a huge fan of that set. Just because I really like recovery on my electric types. I really like recovery on my electric types. I don't like them getting worn down. That's why I'm not a huge fan of... I mean, I was a huge fan of Electros back in the day, and I mean, it has kind of recovery with stuff like Giga Drain, Drain Punch. But I'm really not the hugest fan of things of electric types without recovery. And I mean, that's why Vikavolt is actually a pretty sick mod. I'm a pretty big fan of Vikavolt because it's got roots. But I can see me eventually bringing some like Rest Talk Volt Switch Defog set on a Rotom if I'm going against a team with like no electric immunities. I can definitely see that. I can see myself being weird like that. But it's a solid Mon. The other thing actually is it's like one of the only Rotoms that's not weak to ground, not weak to 1,000 arrows, excuse me. So that's kind of a funny thing to think of when you really think of it, because like obviously he has like the grass typing, so that's a little bit more relevant this gen. But it's a solid Mon. It's got Levitate. It's got a lot of stuff. Metagross, I mean, obviously I needed a Steel type. Steel type's like good. I needed Psychic Resist and stuff. I needed a lot of stuff. I like obviously Psychic Resist for stuff like Keldeo, but I needed a lot of pretty decent stuff. I've got pretty solid Dark Resist with Koko and knockoff resists being Charizard. But and obviously Keldeo. But it's a solid Mon. It's another Stealth Rocker because, like I said, the more things you force Gliscor to be, the easier it is to take advantage of. So the more we can free up its move slots, the better off we're going to be in the long run. So it's another ground weakness, which is a little bit unfortunate, but we do have these double Pokemon, which should ideally be working around the ground types a little bit. Hopefully, again, stuff like Avalanche, stuff like Ice Fang, stuff like Ice Punch is going to be pretty annoying, especially on stuff like Rhyperior. Like Banded Rhyperior probably does a number on the team, so have to definitely keep an eye out for that. But Metagross is definitely it's kind of a solid mod. I've never really liked it, to be honest with you, but I kind of wanted a few things actually. I try to never draft a team without Pursuit. That's just like a personal preference of mine. I hate drafting a team without Pursuit, because Pursuit in the draft format is just such a good option. Like, I like using stuff like Drapion, Skuntank. I don't like Muck I feel like I would like Muck if it wasn't like, if people didn't like it so much, but like, because Muck gets so much like attention, my inner hipster is like, oh my god, no, I can't like this Pokemon. And I don't know, I think it's just because like, I think Muck is super overrated. Like, I think it's a solid mon, but I think it's overrated, and I feel like I would like Muck a lot more if it was like a really underrated mon. Just because I guess that's just like my inner hipster. But anyways, I try to never draft a team without Pursuit. It just having Pursuit on your team just invalidates like so many Pokemon, so that's pretty nice. I mean, obviously, pursuing stuff like Ghost types isn't really going to be the best, but we've got stuff like Audino in the back that can kind of help us out with that a little bit. Plus, we can run like Berry, Metagross, we can run Assault Vest, so we've got a lot of pretty decent stuff. We've got another potential setup super with Rock Polish. Definitely has the attack stat to back it up, whereas Gliscor does not. But it's a solid mon. It's got lots of good coverage. It's got priority. It has what am I trying to say? Priority. It's got rocks. That's the thing I was trying to get at. And it's a very solid Psychic type switch in, which you'll notice before we don't have a single like switch into something like Zam, something like Tapu Lele, which is banned this season, so that's not relevant. Something like Gardevoir. So definitely having the Metagross in back is gonna alleviate that a little bit. So I'm pretty happy about that. But the next pick is actually a very, very interesting pick, and it took me a while to make this decision, because, what? Oh my god. Competitive, the best ability. But, it took me a while to make this decision. I was looking at the things a lot. I was looking at what I wanted to take and what I needed. So I was looking at the team, as we stand right here, and I was like, okay, what do I need? I've got speed. I've got good electric types, got a pretty decent fire, water, grass core, if I do say so myself, so I was pretty happy about that. I've got Dragon Fairy Sea. Even though this isn't really technically a fairy, we do kind of technically have that Dragon Fairy Steel core, which is pretty cool. All three of them weak to ground though. So I got Kofag later to kind of alleviate that a little bit, to kind of take Earthquakes a little bit better. That's one of the reasons I got Kofag. If I forget, because like I said, our entire Dragon Fairy Steel core is weak to ground. But anyways, so I was looking at what I needed. I'm like, my speed is actually pretty good, because at this point I was like, okay, I should probably get something fast, because this is the point where I usually realize my teams are slow. But I'm looking back, and obviously I'm like, well shit, I actually have a pretty good amount of speed tiers hit, so I like that. So I was looking at what I needed. I'm like, I kind of want to get a little bit more bulk, kind of want to get something to support stuff like Charizard, something to support stuff like Coco a little bit better. And I came across Gothitelle, and I was like, you know what? Why don't we try this? Like, I've never done this in League. Why don't we try this in League? I've never tried Gothitelle in League. I'm of the opinion that it's very overrated in League. You can prep for it a lot more than you can prep for in Ladder, obviously. But I really like the idea of it. I think that Gothitelle really has a lot of potential to support some of the big heavy hitter tier on the team. It's got a lot of potential to kind of take out stuff that threatens stuff on the team. It can even, like, it has the, I mentioned I've got a pretty unfortunate weakness to rocks, I suppose, so we could just trap the rocker, just get rid of the rocker, and then we don't have to deal with hazards. So that's kind of a cool thing as well. The coverage is, with hidden power, I guess the coverage is pretty decent. The speed is pretty shit, but I don't know, there's a lot of stuff. You can custom make Gothitelle to beat a lot of things, but obviously they can custom make their Pokemon to kind of take you on as well, with stuff like Shed Shell. That's kind of cool, because we do have one knockoff user. Well, technically, actually, we have two solid knockoff users, like two Pokemon who very much appreciate knockoff in one of their move slots, as opposed to kind of other Pokemon that would have a knockoff. Although I don't really think I'm missing any Pokemon, but like these two Pokemon, they can put knockoff in their toolkit and not be missing any moves, which is very nice. So having the knockoff support for Gothitelle is pretty nice in terms of being able to trap a few things effectively. It's also got the competitive, so we've got a defog blocker and a spin blocker. Oh my god, yeah, this is the best defog blocker in the game. So we come in, we get that +2. Frisk is also pretty solid. The move pool is pretty decent. Like, we got stuff like Energy Ball, which, like I mentioned, is actually pretty decent for some stuff on the team. You can trap stuff like Quagsire, stuff like what's it called, Swampert, stuff like those, who could potentially give stuff like Charizard. It could give stuff like Charizard a problem, could give stuff like Gliscor a problem, Gastrodon could give stuff like Keldeo a problem, and I mean, all those Pokemon force Keldeo to run HP Grass, so if they have something like Garchomp, well, I mean, you have Dazzling Gleam for that, but if they have a Pokemon that you kind of want to run HP Ice for as well, then you're in a bit of a tough situation right there, so kind of cool in that sense. It's also got some like weird text like Heal Bell. I don't know. It's got Taunt too, which is kind of fucking stupid. Imagine giving Gothitelle Taunt. That's so fucking stupid. Oh, this is such a stupid Pokemon when you think of it. But anyway, Taunt, Trick, all that stuff. Deal with fat shit, so it's kind of cool. I mean, obviously, like I said, fat shit has stuff like Shed Shell. So as long as we can pressure his fat shit with knockoff, then we're in a pretty decent situation. Obligatory Mega Audino. I have a hard time making a draft without Wish Pass. I'm a huge advocate for Wish Pass in draft. I'm a huge fan of that move. Wish Tech is the best tech, but I don't think I really have to explain it too much. I'm a huge fan of Audino. It's been on pretty much almost every one of my drafts, and the drafts I haven't gotten Mega Audino, I've drafted regular Audino. So it's a solid mon. I think its price went up this season, up to 6 points. Could be wrong about that. Its price went up, but I still think it's worth the price. So I got it. I still think it's worth the price even with the double megas. So that's kind of cool. And I think it proved last season that even though I use regular Audino a lot of times, you can definitely bring Mega Audino in a team with two megas. You can definitely bring Mega Audino, even with a mega as good as Mega Charizard, because I was able to bring Mega Audino in a team that had Mega Lati last season. So if I can fit Mega Audino onto teams when I have the potential to bring Mega Lati, then I'm going to be able to fit Mega Audino on a team where I have the potential to bring Mega Charizard. So I personally think it's a solid mon. I think it's super underrated. It's got a lot of extra bulk, which is something that I really wanted at this point. After Metagross, technically after Rotom, I was like, I really appreciate some more bulk on the team, because I've got Coco, Zard, even Gliscor, which is kind of shaky, Keldeo. I guess Rotom can be kind of considered bulky, but all of them need a little bit more support in terms of bulk. So we have the Wish Pass, which is going to support them out. We have, I guess, Heal Bell, which can support stuff as well. Get rid of Toxics on Zard, Thunder Waves, because obviously Zard is going to be trying to switch into electric types. So yeah, Audino's definitely going to be helping the team out a lot. Koffag, I love ghost types. What can I say? I've never been the hugest fan of Koffag, but it gives me a lot of defensive presence, which I definitely appreciate. I definitely like that. It works very well with Audino, which is one of the main reasons I got it. It's kind of a spin blocker, I guess, although I don't have spike stacks, so it's really not really relevant. But it's still a solid mon. It deals with stuff like Medicham, deals with fighting types that are kind of scary. Because like I said, Gliscor isn't really Gliscor does not deal with fighting types because of its quad weakness. Gothitelle doesn't deal with fighting types because of knockoff, and I mean, you switch into a fighting type, you take knockoff, then you're pretty crippled. You can't really do very much after that. And obviously Metagross doesn't really switch into fighting types either, and Coco doesn't really switch into fighting types either. So yeah, Koffag is going to give that a little bit of it's going to take a little bit of pressure off of a lot of Pokemon for fighting types. And overall, it's just a solid mon. So it does a lot of stuff. It gives Toxic Spikes, so I guess being its own spin blocker does kind of offer a little bit of stuff, but yeah, it's a solid mon. I definitely like it. It can be a setup sweeper as well, so there are people who expect it to be just a passive doing nothing thing, then they're going to be in for a bit of a nasty surprise, because it does. You see what I did there, right? Nasty surprise, yeah. I'm actually a genius, you guys. But yeah, so I like the team. It's a very solid team. Or I don't know. It's on paper, it seems to me like a very solid team. It's got kind of the premise of the team is kind of Coco Zard with Gothitelle support, if that makes sense. But it's got a lot of kind of other alternatives that it can run with. Like I said, it's got a pretty decent Firewater Grass core. It's got a kind of strange, not the best, but kind of strange Dragon Fairy Steel. It's got kind of a interesting defensive core backbone if we want to bring that on weeks, just chilling in the back for very cheap prices. Yeah, I really like the team, but yeah, I guess that's everything. I've probably been rambling for a little bit too long anyways, so yeah, gonna head out and I'll see you guys for week 1.